All right. Welcome to episode 4. We have Alyssa Martin here. We're going to talk about how she embodies fearless in her work. She is an award-winning Toronto-based choreographer and the artistic director of Rock Bottom Movement. Her works are known for their pure, unbridled energy, as described by a Toronto Star, and are created to highlight the absurdity of the human psyche while sparking intimate playdates with the zaniest corners of the mind. She has created in residence at the Banff Center, Research, the National Ballet, and with Toronto Dance Theatre, and she is currently an emerging director in residence at Canadian Stage. So, holy cow. That's a lot of stuff. That's amazing.
Thank you.
It's amazing. And I mean, if you haven't seen any of Alyssa's shows, I mean, they're amazing, high energy. I mean, I had a chance to watch, was it last year, was it?
Yeah, I think so, in December.
Yeah, and I've just been hooked. I think it's amazing.
Thanks.
So I want to talk about what is it that, you know, drives you to create this work? Like, what was, like, in the initial stages, like, what was your inspiration?
I think initially what I wanted to do was create something to hold joy and zaniness, and that was the only sort of a way into the work for me in the beginning of Rock Bottom, because I was in school and I was creating work in a certain tone to suit the way that I was learning at school, and I needed to create an outlet for myself outside of school to just find the joy in dance and hang out with my friends and start thinking about how we could make dance in a way that wasn't so serious or with the intention of getting in somewhere or being critically approved by a teacher or whatever.
Right.
So that's how it started. Yeah. And then I've been working with a lot of the same collaborators. So as we've grown up together, our other concerns have started to come into the pieces, so they've turned into these venues for us to play through the different emotional things that we're working on, and our different ideas about life and how the world is changing around us and where we sit in the world and where we sit in our art. Right. And we probe that in to our pieces, but all through play and absurd generation and joy and all of these different things.
And you're very strategic with, like, the music that you incorporate into it, and there's always almost kind of like a pop reference as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it's very, very physical, but all of your dancers are trained technically, that you can still see the lines even though they're goofing off and doing all these things. It's very athletic. How do you imagine, what goes in your head? Like, how do you imagine putting all those pieces together? Like, what's your process?
I think for me it always starts with like a vision of something. So I'll see the dancers, I'll see colors, and I'll hear a tone. I think these visions come while I'm listening to music. So there's always a couple songs, or now we're starting to work with originally created music, so the process has shifted. Yeah. But even then there's a whole playlist of reference music that's used to inform the vision of the piece. And then once I can see it happening and I can see that they're dressed in something or not something, or something is playing and there's this tone of lights, it's not necessarily how it turns out, but then I know that I can dive in and make something because I can imagine that it exists. Yes. But it does, most of it starts with an idea for music or a need to make new music for it. Right. And I think I don't know, I think I connect actually more with music than dance sometimes, and I use dance to sort of create these worlds that music can do so well for us, but how can we do it and also see it and live in the room with it? Yeah. Yeah. So you make the music 3D. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Sometimes, and then sometimes it's used like, it's a really good tool to use for a joke, or to bring people into nostalgia, or to reference something, or to get the lyrics of text that I couldn't possibly write. Right. You know, like it sort of works as the script or something, or a scene. Like it adds so much. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because when I did watch the show, I kind of had references to my childhood.
And even just how we would play around with the way we would dance to it, but I didn't think anyone could relate to it. You bring that out, so there's that connection with your audience on a different level than just having something beautiful that comes out that's somewhat predictable with the storyline. Like you have some shock things that come out and you're like, whoa, whoa. And it's like you get the audience engaged.
Yeah, I think that's like, that's good feedback. I also still make dance the same way I made dance when I was 6 years old in my backyard, like dancing to Kelly Clarkson. It's the same process.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like when I see the choreography, there's the way that it's choreographed that I'm like, oh my god. Like I didn't know anyone was like. I was 11 with my sisters, and I was, we were playing in the basement, and like I can see some like references to like old school jazz coming in.
Or even like I used to take Barbies and like smack their legs, and now I can like look at Sam and I'm like, smack your legs, like smack your legs. It's the same thing. It's the same impulse.
That visceral connection, where I'm like, this is so familiar, I love it, but I can't put my finger on it. Yeah, that's amazing. Like that you could put this all together. Because I find even with like contemporary dance, it tends to be more on the dark side. Not always, but most of the times it gets to the dark side. Whereas you can even have dark undertones in the fantastical. Right?
And I think it's an important thing to me, that like exploring self-expression isn't just about exploring the dark sides of yourself. That like the lightness can also be expanded and looked into, and can give you a lot of information about why you are the way you are, and can give you a lot of information about humanity. We don't just need to look at the most awful parts. That there's good stuff too that's also really useful information.
And that's what keeps people going. Like if you think about, I mean, how old are you now?
27.
Yeah, like you're so old, 27. We're going towards 30 now. Oh my gosh. You're just starting. Like it's like amazing. You've got all these accolades that you're 27. So, but now you're able to add more life experiences to it. And I find that as you get busier and you come into yourself, like how do you stay grounded in the creation process, as you're also kind of juggling other works, to keep this work sustainable, right? Because this is the focus, but then you also have to teach and do all these other things, going around the city that can, take away from your energy and your focus. How do you stay grounded so that you can create this work that's really coming from a mind that's clear, right?
I think a lot of it has been the shift as things have gotten busier. I used to create in a way that I would think everything up alone in my like apartment or whatever, and write it all down, and then come in with a menu and then tell that to people. So it was really like just me coming in. There's always collaboration, but it was like I had a plan and I would come in and maybe the plan would shift, but ultimately it was like the thing that I could clench down onto. And then recently it's been this shift into like just trusting that if I arrive into the studio and I trust my collaborators and I'm as candid and as open with them as I can be, then I don't need to like gear up and get into a certain headspace and then like open the door and like I'm ready to work and create. I just am who I am on that day in the space. And if I'm tired, I'll be open with my collaborators about that. Even if they're like it's through all the different ways that I'm coming into the studio with people, that, without putting my burdens, or trying not to put my burdens onto them and saying like, I'm so tired, I don't want to make dance, like it's so hard. Because you're still like, oh yes, okay, let's go. It's still intense. And oftentimes when I come into the studio, as soon as I see the people I'm collaborating with, I'm like,
you're on.
Oh, the tiredness is gone. I'm so excited to be there that it just ends up energizing me. But I think, that the shift is less coming in prepared with a plan and more trying to take care of myself in the in-betweens, on the subway, on the streetcar, listening to the type of music that I need. If I'm like spiked up in energy and I really need to tone it down so I can focus, I'll like play a soundtrack so that I can like land before I come into the room. Or if I'm feeling super sad or I'm caught up about something in my personal life, then I'll try to like play something nostalgic or play something new, or to see what I need to like pump into my own brain so that I'm coming in with a clear mind and an open mind, and like a curious sort of a curious way of approaching the problems that are going to arise, so that we can just deal with them in real time as we make. And it's not like, oh, I biffed my plan because I was sad about this or that.
Yeah. But see, that's an amazing thing, how you're using music to shift your mindset, which is amazing, because it's how you are. It's part of who you are to be professional, but it's also part of how you create, because you're very intentional with the music and the musicality, and how you create it with your dance artists and your dance students and your actors. But also, I feel like, because as a dance artist and an actor also, because that's the work, that if you don't embody authenticity, like, everybody in the room is going to feel it. Right? And you don't want that to be influencing the work, right? The space. So you honor the safe space that the studio creates. And so before you arrive there, if you're getting there right on the dot, it's your commute where you're doing the grounding through music.
To be in the right headspace.
Right headspace. So music is important for getting yourself in the right headspace. Just like you can scan what's on your Instagram feed, you can scan what's in your ears, and be very, very purposeful in what you're listening to, right? I'm the same thing too. Like, if I'm heading to the office and I'm feeling tired because the kids kept me up, like, if I have to play 90s hip hop or something, I gotta do
Everyone
it.
has their
it's
thing.
a nostalgia. I'm like way older than you. You said Kelly Clarkson when you were 11? What?
Well, I don't know. No, I don't know. No, but I do remember dancing to Miss Independent, though. Like, I have a clear memory.
I know. See, your Kelly Clarkson is like my Janet Jackson.
But I don't love Kelly Clarkson. I'm Jennifer Lopez through and through. Like, that was, I like had the hair extension. I got the outfits. Like, every school picture was an imitation of her interview that had like most recently happened. But I'm afraid to choreograph to her music. Like, I will never. I always say, when I'm 30, I'm going to do a solo show On the 6th, the whole album.
Oh my gosh.
It's just going to be me. It'll be awful to watch, but it'll be like...
I will be there, because I'm a J-Lo. This is the second episode where we're talking about J-Lo. So J-Lo, I'm going to tag you. You got another one coming up, emerging artist that's all about J-Lo. Really?
She's an entrepreneur. She has an empire. She's talented.
She is.
She works hard.
She works hard. She's a fly girl, all those things.
Yeah.
And, but that's the thing. Like, who knew? Like, we've got undertones of J-Lo and Kelly Clarkson.
I regret Kelly Clarkson. I regret it.
No, she's great. She's great. But it's like all about the joy and the music.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the time that you were growing up, right?
Yeah.
I just joke because I'm like,
it's just a one song.
Doesn't even matter, right? Okay, so sustainability. So we talked a little bit about that with music and how you ground yourself to get into the studio.
Yeah.
And then what about, in those times that are fluctuating where you can get that sense of overwhelm that comes with everybody.
Yeah.
And you can get these creative blocks. So what do you do to kind of shift the energy, to move that stagnant energy?
I think that's a lot about surrounding myself with the right people in many different aspects of my life.
Yeah.
So I work really closely with my best friend David, who is a dramaturg. And so conversations with him will often get me out of a creative block. I have a team of people that I come see you, and then that will like get me out of something or give me time to breathe or remind me about connecting with my body and keeping my body really healthy. I see a therapist who I can talk to, and we talk about how oftentimes, she always says that oftentimes a creative block is an emotional block. So then we work on like what is actually happening in your real life outside of dance that you need to deal with. And a lot of my pieces are super autobiographical, or they're dealing with real situations that I'm dealing with in my personal life, but I'll like shuffle them into some sort of piece. So I think that's a huge thing for me. And journaling becomes a big part of my life in those moments.
Yeah.
Because if I can write it out, then I can look at it and read it and take a step back.
Right. And
go back and look at themes of past blockages and and start to pick out things that I'm thinking about and things that I'm dealing with.
Right.
And talking to friends and seeing what they're thinking about and what are their struggles and what is happening, and then thinking about all of this will make me feel less like in my own cubicle of of blockage, because everyone gets it. It happens. And
then that's the thing about stress, is that we can go from, like, a creative state of mind is expansive, it's with abundance, but then when we can get into stress, it's very contracted, and so we can go into fight or flight or freeze. And when we get into freeze mode, then we don't want to get out. We just kind of feel like we're under the thumb of responsibility, and then we start to feel all the tension build up in different parts of our bodies, right? And so there is evidence to suggest that when you are with like-minded people that are supportive and create a safe space for you to speak, and also to be like, I see you, Alyssa, I'm going through the same thing, it actually helps you to move your diaphragm.
Right. Oh, interesting.
Right? And so it allows you to breathe, which gets you grounded. And when you can mobilize the diaphragm, then that's when you can give back to the creative work.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the creative work is all about how are you in the present moment. And if you're going through something emotional, you kind of want to numb yourself out. So it takes a lot of responsibility to, journal it and face it on and talk to a therapist and talk about, and like kind of relive and feel it in your body. And especially too, if your work is autobiographical, like for you to see it over and over again kind of will remind you. But it's done in such a way that it's...
You wouldn't know. I'm not like...
No, but I'm like, it's done in such a way that it's like, it's so high energy, and it's like, like, and there's different heights and levels and tones, but it's just like, I know one of the shows that we watched was based on personal experience with, anyway. But like it's really cool that you can have that outlet, because that's really what you want to do, is to transform that and put it out there, which puts you in a very vulnerable position. Right? So how do you overcome that? I think that's a big part of being fearless. You're embodying and charging through, but putting your work and your autobiographical stuff in this piece of work for review. Most people don't do anything because they just don't want. They hoard their talents because they don't want anyone giving them feedback. Like, how do you go through the feedback and say, you know what, nice, but I'm still going to continue with my work? How do you still stay very courageous in how you move forward with your creative work?
I think the priority is serving my collaborators first. So if they're happy with the work, then I'm happy. And I mean, as long as people are coming to see it, and there are usually some people who give really generous and beautiful feedback, and then I sort of use those as the little like nuggets of gold that will pull me up when I get the less than good feedback. But I don't know. I try to remember that, like, we're all just people. And I go see shows that I love, and I see shows that I don't love, and it doesn't mean that I think that the person who made the show that I don't love is like garbage and should never make again. I'm just like, oh, that wasn't for me. Or oftentimes I'll get like hard on myself. Like, but you're stupid to get that. Like, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you understand that? Why didn't you like that? Why can't you see the beauty? And there are so many elements to things. And I think a lot of the time people don't know how to watch things. Like, I'll think about that a lot. And so maybe it's a conversation of like, oh, well, this is what we were trying to do, but if you didn't like it, then that's fine. And that tells me a lot about you, and that tells you a lot about me, and that's lovely. If everyone came and loved it, I would be concerned that I wasn't taking as like a big enough risk with what we were doing. But if I ever made something and everyone in it, involved in it, that made it with me, hated it, then I would. Also, I'm not making these things alone. It's not like just me doing everything. Well, like, I know. It's also a team. It's a team. So it's not just my voice. It's like, it ends up being like 10 voices at certain, like, to varying degrees. Like, someone will come in for one afternoon and say one thing, and that shifts the piece. So it's like a real community effort, and I'm just like, you're very humble. She's so humble, too humble. No, but you're not coasting. I mean,
you're the fire that starts the pieces running, right?
Right.
You're the artistic director. So, but I think for emerging artists or anybody who has been thinking about mounting a show and they have a talent or perspective, overcoming that fear, being able to be courageous in finding your people and courageous and like going through the steps to implement it and finding the people to watch it. I mean, that takes a lot of courage, but it takes a lot of work. What people don't understand is being courageous is also being tuned with your body, right?
Yeah.
And also being sensitive with your cast members. You know, if they don't feel comfortable with a certain thing or a certain movement vocabulary, then being able to shift, like you said, is like you can go in and go with the flow.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can suggest something and see if it works, and then you make the shift. So
yeah,
that's amazing. So how would you, like, what would you say in one sentence on how you embody momentum?
How I embody
momentum.
I would say, it might be more than one sentence.
Yeah, that's okay.
I would say I like surf the natural momentum that's provided to me.
Nice.
So
I see it.
You know, like if I'm like in a creative space, like things are happening, ideas are rolling, I am laughing, I will like dance in the park, record myself, listen to the music, like just go full.
Yeah.
And then if the surf is low and I'm like banked on the sand, I'll just like sit on the board and be like, it's okay for now.
Nice.
The wave will come again. Just like chill. This is the time when you chill.
I love that.
Yeah, I think that's it.
That's a beautiful analogy of momentum. You got to ride the wave of momentum. But if the wave isn't there, you got to sit and chill and wait for it to come back, because it will come back. It's amazing. So thank you, Alyssa, so much for teaching us what the drive, sustainability, and mindset of being fearless is with Rock Bottom Movement. Do you have a show coming up?
We don't. We're working on a new show called Hollow Mountain. So we're in residency right now, and it'll be out soon. I don't know when the show is going to happen, but it's a musical.
Oh,
so a musical.
Yes.
And probably like, I don't want to say, but in the next year we'll show it. Yeah.
So tune in. I'm always letting people know about Rock Bottom. I love them. And next week I'll be interviewing Ipsita Paul, veteran triple threat, and we're going to talk about all the good things on mindset, drive, and sustainability of the creative high performer. Tune in. Thanks again, Alyssa.
Thank you.
Episode 4. We got it. Yay.